unfolds in a tiny fishing village on the outskirts of Palawan, where life moved slowly, and dreams felt too big for the place they lived. Jiro, a 15-year-old boy with gentle eyes and calloused hands, grew up in a home made of thin wood and a roof patched together with rusted tin. His family had almost nothing, no savings, no luxuries, many nights without enough food, but what he did have was a voice that never seemed to belong to someone living in such poverty. He spent his childhood helping his father repair boats on the beach and carrying buckets of water from a communal pump. But every evening, when the sun dipped into the ocean and the sky burned orange and purple, he would stand by the shoreline and sing to the waves. The ocean was his audience when the world wasn't listening. His voice carried across the water, soft, then powerful, rising and falling with the tide. To him, it was the only time he felt free, the only time he felt bigger than the life he was born into. Locals knew him as the shy boy who sang like a seasoned artist, but no one imagined anything beyond the village. His mother often told him, "Your voice is your gift, but dreams cost money we don't have." Even so, she never stopped listening to him. One afternoon, while singing outside a small shack where his mother washed clothes for neighbors, a tourist from California paused and recorded him on a phone. Jiro didn't think much of it, he was used to people taking photos of the beach, never of him. But the tourist uploaded the video online with the caption, "I found an angelic voice in the Philippines." Within days, the video spread across social media. Comment sections filled with shock, praise, and disbelief. People wanted to know who this boy was and why the world hadn't discovered him sooner. His village, which rarely saw outsiders, suddenly became the talk of the internet. Jiro still didn't understand how big this moment was until a charity reached out to offer something he never thought he'd experience, a fully sponsored trip to America to audition for America's Got Talent. The night he received the news, he cried quietly in the corner of their small home, overwhelmed by fear and excitement. His parents hugged him tight, promising him that no matter what happened, they were already proud. For the first time in his life, Jiro felt like the world was calling his name. Begins with Jiro stepping into an airplane for the first time, gripping the armrests as if they were the only things keeping him from falling. He had never traveled beyond his province, let alone flown across the world. Every sound, every announcement, every unfamiliar face felt overwhelming. But he kept reminding himself that this was his one chance, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to prove that a boy with nothing could stand on a stage seen by millions. When he arrived in Los Angeles, the towering buildings, endless highways, and bright city lights seemed unreal, like he was walking inside a movie. The AGT studio felt even more intimidating. Contestants from around the world waited backstage, wearing stylish clothes, holding expensive instruments, rehearsing with confidence. Jiro stood alone with his thin folder of borrowed sheet music and a heart pounding so hard he thought others could hear it. He kept his head down, trying not to draw attention to himself. When his name was called, he walked onto the stage under the blinding lights, feeling the weight of millions watching. The judges looked at him with curiosity as he introduced himself in a trembling voice, explaining that he came from a small village and had dreamed of this moment his entire life. Some audience members whispered, "He looked too shy, too fragile, too inexperienced." But the moment the music began, everything changed. Jiro closed his eyes and let his voice rise, pure and powerful, filling the theater with emotion. The crowd fell silent, then erupted in cheers as he hit notes that seemed impossible for someone his age. One judge leaned forward, stunned, and said afterward that his voice felt like it came from a place of pain, hope, and destiny. By the time he finished, the audience was on their feet, applauding for nearly a full minute. Jiro stood frozen, realizing that this was his moment, the start of something far bigger than anything he had ever imagined. Begins with Jiro waking up in his small shared dorm room in Los Angeles, still trying to adjust to a life filled with cameras, rehearsals, and people who knew his name. Only a few weeks earlier, he had been waking up to the sound of roosters and crashing waves. Now he woke up to the buzzing of his phone filled with messages, fan edits, and interview requests. The internet had crowned him, the boy with the golden voice, a title he didn't feel worthy of. Even with all the attention, Jiro stayed humble, often slipping away from crowds to practice in quiet corners of the studio. He believed that if he wasn't perfect, this dream would disappear the way quick tides erase writing in the sand. Every night, he stayed up late, rehearsing until his voice cracked, drinking warm tea to keep his throat alive. His vocal coach had to remind him to rest, but he feared that rest meant falling behind. In between rehearsals, producers interviewed him, asking about his life, his struggles, and his dreams. Every time he spoke about his family, he felt tears pushing at the back of his eyes. He remembered his parents watching him from a small television screen in their tiny home, neighbors crowding around to support him. That image gave him strength. When the next round of AGT arrived, the pressure felt heavier than the first. Contestants had become more competitive, and performance standards skyrocketed. Some had professional trainers, stylists, and full support teams. Jiro had only his voice and his determination. On stage, he poured every emotion into his song, a powerful ballad that showcased his range and control. The moment he finished, the room exploded in applause. Social media lit up again, calling his performance unbelievable, unreal, and proof of pure talent. Despite the love, Jiro often lay awake at night, wondering if he truly belonged in this world of lights, fame, and expectations. He was afraid that if he slipped even once, the world would forget him as quickly as it had discovered him. But deep down, he also felt something growing inside him, the belief that maybe, just maybe, he was meant for this stage. Brings a sudden shift in Jiro's journey. As the semi-finals approached, the workload doubled. There were media days, rehearsals, coaching sessions, and callbacks. Sleep became rare, and stress became constant. One morning, he woke up with a sore throat, but he brushed it off as exhaustion. By the next day, the soreness turned into sharp pain, and his voice cracked during warm-ups. Panic spread through him like fire. His vocal coach looked worried, telling him he needed rest. But there was no time. The semi-finals were days away, and pulling out wasn't an option, not for him, not after everything. Producers offered alternatives, but he couldn't imagine going home without fighting. He thought of his mother's words, "If your dream scares you, it means it's big enough." On the night of the semi-finals, he stood backstage trembling, not from nerves, but from fear that his voice would fail him in front of millions. When the announcer called his name, his legs felt heavy, but he pushed forward. The stage lights hit his face, hotter than ever before. The music started, and for a moment, nothing came out. A painful silence filled the room. Jiro closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and whispered a small prayer. Then, with every ounce of strength he had left, he pushed through. His voice wasn't perfect, it was raw, shaky at first, but filled with real emotion. The imperfections made the performance even more heartbreaking. The audience felt his struggle, his determination, his fight. By the time he reached the final note, tears stained his face, and the entire theater rose to its feet, cheering louder than ever. The judges looked stunned, emotionally moved by his courage. One said it was the bravest performance in the competition. Jiro walked off stage exhausted, thinking he had failed, but the world didn't see failure, they saw heart. That night, he advanced to the finals, proving that even when broken, he could still shine. Opens with a sense of electricity in the air as Jiro steps into the AGT stage rehearsal for the final time. The studio feels different, bigger, louder, more intense, as though every light, every sound, and every person has been amplified. This is the night he had been building towards since the moment he first sang to the ocean back in his small village. But now, standing in the middle of America's biggest stage, he feels a mix of fear and determination battling inside him. Producers check on him, stylists fix his clothes, and technicians adjust the microphones around him, yet Jiro feels like he's floating in a dream. He keeps thinking about his parents, imagining them sitting on a bamboo bench back home, the entire village crowded around a tiny TV powered by a generator. That picture alone feels like a weight and a blessing at the same time. He decides to dedicate his final performance to them, to every sacrifice, every tear, every night they went to sleep hungry so he could eat. Backstage, he holds his necklace, the simple one his mother gave him before he boarded the plane to America. She told him, "This is not for luck, it's to remind you where you came from." He repeats those words under his breath as he walks toward the stage. The music starts softly, a slow instrumental that carries a deep sadness. Jiro begins to sing in a quiet whisper, his voice trembling with emotion, not weakness. Every note seems to pull from the deepest corner of his heart. The song tells the story of a young boy who dreamed while holding a broken life together, the hunger, the storms that destroyed their home, the days spent helping on the beach instead of going to school. As he reaches the chorus, his voice rises, strong and unshaken, filling the entire theater. Audience members are wiping their tears. The camera captures a family in the crowd clutching each other's hands, moved beyond words. Even the judges, who had seen thousands of performances, look completely spellbound. Halfway through the performance, the music swells, and Jiro hits a high note that stuns the entire room, a note filled with pain, hope, and a lifetime of struggle. For a moment, time feels frozen. When he finishes, the room explodes in applause so loud it shakes the stage beneath him. People stand, cheering, crying, and shouting his name. The judges offer emotional praise, saying his performance wasn't just a song, it was a story, a life, a miracle. Jiro bows deeply, trying not to cry, but a tear escapes anyway. He returns backstage overwhelmed, his heart beating wildly. All he can think about is whether he did enough. Did he make his parents proud? Did he make his country proud? Did he show the world who he really is? As the voting lines open, fans from all over the globe rush to support him. His phone explodes with thousands of messages. That night, as he lies in bed in the silent dorm room, he whispers one final prayer, not to win, but to be remembered. Begins with a sleepless, nerve-wracking morning. The finale results show as hours away, yet time moves painfully slow. Jiro walks around backstage, seeing other contestants dressed in sparkling outfits, laughing nervously with their families. He stands alone in a quiet corner, holding his mother's necklace tightly. Inside, he feels torn between hope and fear. Cameras follow him, interviewing